Okay. Welcome to the podcast, which does not yet have a name. Let's see, how's your mic doing? Let's make sure that baby's up and going. Sweet. We're connected. Yeah. Man rode into town on a podcast with no name. It's a reference most people won't get. Okay, first what has to die is my perfectionist tendencies on framing. Here we go. First off, I think we have to address the fucking elephant in the room of
There's an elephant
being
up here?
on the edge of a 100-foot tree, literally trying to have a conversation at the same time as the track, filling into some real anxiety, you know?
Yeah. Because it's like, oh, that's death.
Yeah,
Like,
so,
death on either side.
and yet we're totally safe. And we're totally safe.
Well, I'm grateful that you're up here, man. I'm grateful that you are my friend, my good friend who's willing to join me on my escapades and be awesome in your own right. And just kind of jumping into it, the reality is we're always kind of close to death, right? Like, we have a very real buffer from our society that keeps us alive. And that line right there is just each other, right? It's like we use our social group, like our social structure, to meet our needs for survival. And when we don't have that, our bodies freak out. Anyway, so thanks for coming on the podcast. Yes, elephant in the room is that we're not in a room.
We're not
on
in
the top
a
of a 100-foot tree.
and it feels so good, to be on that edge.
Yeah? What does it bring up?
Well, I think it brings up the real potent questions about life itself, which I think the topics that we chose to talk about today, when I look far enough down the rabbit hole, it goes back to like our essential belief systems about our reality, who we are, why we're here, and so death invites us to ask big questions. And so being on the edge of an edge, brings back up a lot of things, in my life where I have felt enough shame to question my existence and question whether to stay or go, or whether I was worthy to be a part of a community or not, or whether I was toxic, I was causing so much harm in people's lives that the best thing to do for me as someone who was broken was to relinquish a society from and that edge and this.
No. Yeah, especially men, right? And women and men certainly have shared challenges, and we also have unique ones, right? Like, there is a unique challenge to being a man, being this piece of shame and withdrawal. And whether that's withdrawing to a basement to play video games because you don't want to be a source of harm to your society, as you might internalize a narrative, or whether it is I'm going to take myself out completely because I have demonstrated such capacity for malevolence as far as my internalized shame is telling me that the best way I can protect people around me is to take myself out of the game. So, it's been a real gift, Adam, to hear some of your story and to hear your perspective and the lessons that you have so indelibly earned, paid tuition for in your life. And it's a profound thing for me. What do you think contributes to that sense or perception of shame? And feel free to take the question wherever you want, even to change the question if you feel there's a better one.
Well, I do find it interesting that everyone's sense of shame is actually different, diverse, and based a lot on their moral belief systems, right? Take for instance a hunter who kills animals all the time. Been taught, it's what his father did, that's what his grandpa did. That's how they get food. But it's not just that, it's also their sport. And then you meet a vegan, you meet somebody who's very animal rights, people who won't even kill a bug, and you see the vast difference between what happens when one person accidentally squishes a bug versus another person.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And the
Yeah.
amount of shame that comes from that, right?
Yeah.
Someone who is highly zealous, religionally, and whatever their standards are can feel tremendous shame,
Mm.
over something another person wouldn't even blink an eye at. And so shame in a way is something that we take upon ourselves, and I think is related to remorse. And I think remorse is different than shame in that shame is sort of when we take on a belief system that we are unacceptable, broken, evil, wicked, violent, um, too much. Like we take on and adapt like an identity that we live through that perspective, that lens of self that dismisses and debases and self violates, constantly.
It is, it might be debated. Shame, the most insidious form of self-harm. It is the hardest to spot in oneself and in those around. And yet it can be just as deadly as slitting your wrists, right? Like the amount of deaths of despair, so-called, are through the roof. We started talking about this yesterday. But it's like we like to think about these externalized threats, whether it's people in a political party we don't like, or people on a border that we don't understand, or, just people in another country who are trying to violate our way of life. Whatever it is, it sure is convenient to look at the sources of threat as things that are outside of us and outside of our social group, right? The us them mentality. And that feels all too true here, where it's like, where is my enemy? Where's my adversary that I should be combating? Is it this person, right? Like, is it my partner? Is my partner the enemy here who's trying to attack me? Or am I seeing my partner through the lens of my own woundedness because of my attachment injuries when I was 3? Right? Like, can you see that? Can you identify those things? And I think that like shame has at it for as its roots a lot of those experiences that we have when we're young, right? Like you think of what it's like to be a child and you walk out onto a playground for the first time. You don't know anyone. You're like, I hope that they accept me. I hope that I'm enough. Or if you've hurt someone on accident, it's like, I'm sorry. Like, I'm so sorry. Anyway, that it just becomes quieter as a process. It doesn't diminish. That's a human thing. Yeah.
I don't think that's what a lot of experience about. Not square is about being afraid that people will actually see what we're seeing. Whether it's wrinkles, whether it's stutter, whether it's silly armpits, like whatever it is, like I think
Adam, you can just tell me. You're like, I don't want to get you upset. We're high up, bro.
But and interestingly enough, I think actually the perfectionists I've met carry the most shame.
Present. Yeah. Interesting. I wonder why that is. And it's like, where does that come from? Because like striving for a high ideal, give me just making sure we're still rolling here. Like, gosh, there's something I love so deeply about having high ideals to strive for as a human. And yet, I don't know that anything holds me back as much in life as my perfectionist tendencies that suppress action because it's not good enough, right? It's like, oh, to do something badly is worse than risking success. How ludicrous is that, right? That's nonsense. Oh my God. But it's real. That's what I experience on the daily. Well, what is it? What is the antidote to shame if there is to be one? Because it is something we're remediating, we're finding remedy to.
Well, I think if you can remember far enough back to your child, you'll remember a time where you didn't have
Didn't know enough to be
right and
shameful.
wrong. Yeah,
Yeah.
you didn't know you weren't supposed to be outside, or you weren't supposed to like
Are we not?
ask questions about fat people. I mean, like you didn't know
Yeah.
what was wrong and what was right. You didn't know that you're supposed to be someone and that you should do certain things and shouldn't do other things, and that there's polite manners and there's, gross stuff about you, right? And so I feel like it's a return to innocence. I feel like the remedy is a return to our innocence, where we accept parts of ourselves that are curious and obscure and undefined and still messy. And learn that we're in like an evolutionary process, which requires polishing. It requires friction
Do
to
you want some
rub off
pine
our
cells?
skin, you know?
This is from this type of tree. By the way. It's you can use it as lip balm or as not exactly a moisturizer, but it has a topical salve for one's skin. Forgive the interruption. Uh, I just think it's brilliant that this comes from this tree. Like, not this one specific, but like, you can also make gum from pine resin. It tastes very piney, but tree resin, you can isolate out some of the more bitter terpenes. And I've actually got some here in my pack if you wanted to try some, but I keep getting distracted. I'm sorry. Okay. That sort of letting go and unlearning. Like for me, I ask myself, like, okay, this isn't just a hypothetical, like, oh, me in these other ways, like times in life at these edges where I'm really feeling it. Like, how can I apply that now? Right? Like, what role is shame playing right now in this conversation? And my relative to my perfectionist tendencies. And it makes me think about how when we're young, we don't have the scripts. We don't know that we're supposed to be letting go of whatever it is that we are to comply with whatever the group is doing, right? It's like, okay, don't be playing. It's time to sit down and pay attention to the front of the room. And so I'm like, in my own mind thinking, what script am I thinking that I'm needing to be following here? Instead of being truly present with one of the dearest friends that I have in life right now, right? Like, is there a way that I think this is supposed to go that I'm holding to? And how do you balance the engaging with structure in ways that are useful, with an over grasping, like an overly rigid grasping that how things are supposed to go in a way that actually takes you out?
Some things are just naming. You're relevant to like right now,
Yeah,
these sensations, because that's how it shows up. Like, I think people, when they think of shame, they think of something real bad.
sure.
You feel real bad about killing that, puppy or whatever you did, or whatever it is, but it's not that. How it shows up in their lives is our demands upon ourselves. The rejection of who we are, our physical, what our age is, what that zit looks like, you know what I mean? It actually shows up as the common day, like rejection of self. And so I think that shame is it's governing more of our lives than, and it's keeping us in a pseudo straight jacket all the time. Mm. So, yeah, it's a big topic. And I think it has a lot to do with our shadow selves, or the selves that we have not come to know well enough. And so we're constantly in rejection, at war with the anxiety that we have to always need this thing and avoid it. It's actually a running and avoidance, a dance and void from the things you're afraid to face that are actually a part of you that you actually can't deny. So that has a lot to do with coming to know ourselves and accept ourselves on a deeper level.
Yeah, yeah. Like I'm very grateful that these things can be named. There's this principle from personal neurobiology. Jan Siegel, I think, coined it, minted it, and it's name it to tame it, right? Like name what you're feeling, what your experience is, to tame it, to then process and integrate it. And so it's this curious practice and principle of transmutation, where while I'm with you, my dear friend, who I trust actually to accept me with all my quirks and eccentricities and imperfections, that I get up in my own head and I'm actually disconnecting from you, from being present with you, with this overfixation on like, oh, am I whatever, and then an attempt to hide, which is an impossibility. Like that's not, it's not actually possible to hide. Like you like to think that we can, but we only ever hide ourselves from ourselves, you know? And it's like when you can get out of your head, like when I get out of my head with you, and I'm like, okay, like, can I just set my selfish little bundle of self-referential thinking to the side here for a second and be present with my brother and just see you, just love you, just connect with you. It's like that goes to the side, right? Shame and pride are two sides to the same coin of isolated self-focus, right? Me. Whether it's I'm the best and I'm not thinking about you, your needs, what? You don't have needs. You're basically an object for me to use to meet my needs, right? That's this narcissist piece. Or this self-obsessed piece of like, oh my gosh, like this thing. It's like, that's not important. Like that's not important in your experience or the experience of this tree, whether or not I'm reacting a certain way, right? And so it's the same delusional thinking that is an isolated self-reference, fixation. And so it's only by getting outside of oneself and not losing oneself in a way of like, oh, I'm not important, which is just shame masquerading as humility. But it's the expansion of self to be part of something bigger. Like we are around an immaculate like world right now, right? Like this doesn't really do it justice, but it is fantastic, right? Like what a gift. And there are these prison cells of thought, self-focused thought, these traps. Like if you're golfing, it's like a sand trap. And if you're not careful, you can just get stuck, just hitting that ball back and forth in that trap. Mm-hmm. Adam, what, my friend, might you say are some of the most invaluable lessons you have learned about shame or redemption? Take as much time and as you'd like with that, and take it wherever you like.
I think on the scale of toxicity and self-harm, I think like shame is below it's below apathy. It's almost like an active violence start through, like our psyche. Like in some way, shape, or form, our psyche has come to believe that we deserve to be punished. And in ways it shows up as smoking, as oversleeping or eating in these ways that are actually violent. We know they're bad for us, and we say, and you deserve it. and you deserve it. Um, it's amazing to hold just believing some type of narratives, story, and well, ongoing possibility that are not capable of recreating themselves. Yeah, that like being able to let go and move through, move on, or beyond. Hmm. But it's only aspects of that. No one can pull us out of that except for some shift in position. And so, and I like that you bring up it is like a fixation on ourselves. You know, and that one of the answers, one of the solutions is to lose yourself, to quit being so narcissistically involved with your misery, to quit being that victim, quit playing that violin. Poor me, my everyone else's fault, and life owes me something, and I've been wronged by it, and now I'm a martyr, and so mm, like no one can get you out of that except for yourself. Hmm. And so
It's like people can throw lifesavers, they can extend a hand, but ultimately it needs to be a decision made in small ways, mostly on the daily. Hmm. That so what about that principle would you say is is that personalized? Yeah, there is this element of self punishment in that because we internalize that which we're given, that which we're socialized. And you see this with cultures that are very focused on duty and honor, like the obligation to community, to one society. And when you fail in that, there's a social reinforcement which becomes internalized, which can drive something like, I almost said Sudoku, Sabuku, like this self emulation or self visceration. And whether that's something that we're doing physically with a katana, or whether we're doing it with drugs, alcohol, or a much more slow approach of terrible life choices, lifestyle, and whatever else. It is self-destruction in any case. One of the things that has come to mind for me is this piece of like that there's so many people who feel like they're on this edge, like on this precipice, right? Like where in this crisis of meaning, there and in this sense of shame and failure to meet one's potential. And it's not just about other people, right? It's like there's a person that I want to be. There's an essence of me that is crying out to be that which I want to see in the world, right? The call to heroic potential, the heroic impulse is something that I think a lot of people actually feel, but don't see a way to execute on. And so there's this sense of disappointment in not being that, in not meeting that potential. And there are a lot of people who feel like they're at this crossroads in terms of decision on like, should I just die? Like, should I just end it? And one of the things that I've thought paradoxically is this piece of like, yeah, like, but not in the way you think, right? Like, sure, you could just you could do it. You could take the dive, and you know what? Like that would be one way to resolve it. But what is that actually telling you to do? What is that feeling pushing you to do? The self must die. This isolated ego must die into service and contribution and identity that is about more than you. God damn. Right? It's like, listen, I can't tell you right now what would help you, but I could tell you a few ways that where you might help, right? Where you might help the world, where you might reach out and help someone in your life who needs you. And guess what? If you don't come, no one's coming, right? People need you, and you don't have to go, but you could. And I tell you what, you fill your life with rising to that call, and in a way that is more localized, not, you know, not being an influencer for people on the far side of the globe, but for people who know your face, who know the sound of your laughter, family members, friends, right? Like that is our opportunity. And in the dying away of isolated ego into connecting with more, you gain courage. Love is the wellspring of courage and is the fullest antidote to shame, I would say.
Mm, well spoken. And Victor Frankl's book is about that. And it's interesting, it doesn't even have to be another human that you devote yourself to. It can be an art, it can be a book, it can be a building. You know what I mean? Like it's interesting. Life calls us to be involved with it and participate in it. And that every relationship is a relationship, you know? And so it doesn't have to just be people. So, I just got a baby kitty at 3 weeks old, helpless, doesn't even know how to walk, didn't know how to eat, bottle feed it. But serving this innocent,
Yeah,
helpless
tiny
little
little
baby
thing.
creature has given me so much life, so much purpose, so much zeal, so much happiness, And it's a current, a currency, a circle of life happening here, that's not just a one-sided thing. And the more involved you can get in these little circles of connection, the more alive you feel.
That cat is weapons grade adorable. Did you settle on a name for him? OSHA? OSHA.
Urge. Yeah.
Not the government institution that regulates safety in workplaces.
Oh,
OSHA like plant?
oh, shit was that's just
You're
his.
like OSHA like the cat, man.
He's just
Yeah. Yeah. Love that. There's this other piece to it too of like, what is the path to redemption or to remediation post shame? And man, there's a lot in this narrative of like, you just need to accept yourself. You just need to love yourself despite whatever you've done. And I don't disagree with any of that. And also, I think that there's this piece of like, it's not about you. It's not about your redemption. It's about going to work, right? Like the city's burning and we don't have enough men to drive the ambulances. We can think about you later. This isn't about being redeemed. It's about doing the work. It's about walking the noble path. And I do think that those things actually go hand in hand. I do think that there is no true and complete path without that self-acceptance piece and almost a delusional level of self-love and forgiveness. And also, I think that it is easier for a lot of men to not start there, right? To first get busy with that devotion, right? Like that cat needs to be fed. That cat needs to be loved on. That cat, when you walk through the door, is like, feed me! I can't exist without you. I need you. And for men, like men need to be needed. You look at the notes, the suicide notes of men, and they're most of the time there's this theme of like, I felt useless. I felt like I wasn't needed by anyone. And it didn't matter if I was around. No one needed me. And so I think that there's this piece of like, do we realize how much we need to be needed? And are we so averse to the fear of being locked into responsibility and have a responsibility that we're locked into that hampers or impedes our autonomy, that we rob ourselves of that which more than anything, it seems to me, calls us to our potential, which is to have a role and be relied on, to have a role that is founded on responsibility for those around us, an identity based on that. I think that few things orient a man to existence more than that. It's not just rights. It's not just about having ice cream. To be needed, to have a role, and to step forward. Like thinking about you and your role as, leading a dojo. What kind of meaning, if you don't mind commenting, did that?
Well, I found it interesting that the kids that were struggling in the dojo, the kids that were in school and kids that had no self-esteem, if I gave them, yes, if I gave them a position, didn't matter how small or big it was, I'd have a 6-year-old leading class at some point, mostly because I knew that mantle would call them to their own horizon.
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Notice there that you didn't respond with a self-focused answer. This is a case in point. This is a data point of like, Adam, what meaning did this bring to you? You didn't say, well, when I would wake up, I would, I. You said, I'd look at these kids, sometimes 6, 7, whatever, and you connected to those that were in service to, who are in your care, because you can have a sense of self that is expanded. We're not just notes. We are the symphony. We're not just a drop in the ocean. We are the ocean. And like, there is a real relief existentially to being connected that way. I just forgive the commentary if it's unwelcome, but I just think that in itself is telling and demonstrates this principle of this sort of gift. And that's so worth celebrating.
No, I feel like when you say and you talk about the lack of contribution in men's lives and I think a lot of men are experiencing in this day and age is that they don't know, they don't have a pathway of giving, they don't have a community to serve. We have small compartmentalized boxes that we usually are working with. We have very limited time on our jobs to contribute. You know what I mean? And so there's, like a loss. I know it's quite the stretch.
You know what? I'll leave that to you. I'll do this one.
Yeah, I feel that part of me, I'm not at the dojo. And there's a part of me that misses that mantle so much because of its reciprocal value. Because of what it drove me to. It asked me to become a better version of myself than then. Because people were asking me questions beyond my capacity and asking me to show up. And I think it really catalyzed my growth, my life, also my sense of fulfillment. Feeling, uh, because of our contribution. because of the feedback, because of the harvest of love, of kindness, of sharing.
One day I will get this set and then be able to let go and just have it be. But it is not this day.
It's not this day.
As I was climbing this tree today, I thought about how trees, they develop lines of strength based on lines of stress. So with the force of gravity pulling at these trees, with exposure to wind, gusts, storms, whatever it is, snow and the branches, in those places where there is pressure, where there is strain, that's where the tree devotes its resources to strengthen the tree. And we're the same, right? Like, we are not simple, inorganic, or abiotic systems. We're organic, complex, adaptive systems like this tree. And we are not just durable or fragile. We are anti-fragile, which means that we develop strength or faculty based on what inputs we have from our system around us. I might have to get another harness soon because I just get nervous having someone I'm interviewing just like, oh, I'm just on the edge of death. I'm like, whoa, whoa. It throws me. Like, so anyway, as I was saying,
My pants.
do you want to go to the hospital before or after? Yeah, like, we're the same, right? And so, like, yeah, we can definitely fill our plates with too much and be too busy. And I think that most people these days in the modern world feel that way. But I think that the problem is not that we have responsibility. The problem is that we don't have connection to community and in relationship in the ways that allow for that opportunity in responsibility to be what it needs to be. We are not strengthened. We are not encouraged. We are not inspired or put in a place where we can shoulder that well. And in fact, I don't think that there's any amount of responsibility that is so small that it will allow us to bear it without that. Like, I think that having connection in that way, in relationship with other human beings, and also maybe cats, animals, it's amazing what that can do. With other people, that's what allows us to really be able to step into it, shoulder to shoulder, so that we don't just break when the next snowfall falls. But yeah, I know what it's like to have a lot on my plate and be stressed, and I know what it's like to have very little on my plate that is related to other people. Where it's just like, okay, my responsibilities, I'm just doing this for me. I was doing this so I can go out to eat next week. That's so empty, compared to like, oh, I'm with this person that I care about and we're investing together in this thing. So much more meaningful. Right. Well, senor, it is 11 o'clock. I want to be sensitive to time constraints and not have any poor precedents of disrespecting your time. We've had enough precedents for that, I'm sure. And I feel so grateful, Adam, that you've come on the podcast today. This is an amazing project. I'm so pumped about this. Oh my gosh, look at this. Woo! And I'll have to get you to waterboard me another time. Do you know what I got? Can I show you? Hoop! Wah! I got pellets.
Bag.
Your bag, yes.
I want to smack you on the ass, but you'll fall.
But I might fall to my death. Cause of death?
You're like,
Tom fooleries. Oh, sorry.
At least it was a good game.
It was a good game. Adam, this is what I'm planning on. Oh, you handed me one of these. I think I put it in my
I
backpack.
put it back in my bag. So.
Oh, thank you. So when we do some of these insane things, you have some
Right? Props.
What?
Right?
Great props.
Right.
Well, so yeah,
I feel like there's so
Wanna-
much stuff.
agreed.
And it's so difficult to distill down, and it's interesting to have so like such a reflection in a different manner of your depth. And these conversations go on for hours on different degrees. And we can talk about detriment to despair. You know, because I think the greatest tragedy is that people don't arrive. They don't really come with all their gifts. They don't sing their music. They don't get on the dance floor. They don't ask that girl out. They don't dare to speak their truth. They never arrive. You know, they stay hidden. They stay in the shadows. You know, and yet what? You tried. Yeah. And I find that in me. I find parts of me still hiding, cowering in the shadows. You know, to this day, and I'm 47 years old.
It's not an age thing. It's a human thing. And I don't know any human who's like, just arrived. Like maybe there's some monks out there I could meet. But it's like I don't think it's an age thing, Like when we become adults, we don't set aside the child. That the thing that you call your inner child, that's not your inner child. That's just you, bro. That's just you. Your feelings are not some alien thing. You just are so in the practice of being disconnected from them that now it seems like a separate entity. That's not your inner child. That's you. You are that. That's not you when you're 7. That's you now feeling those feelings. Okay? No. Man, and it's such a shame too. It's such a loss of potential, right? Like those, I just hate seeing a good thing go to waste. And it's like, because of shame, people withdraw and then they waste their lives or they die. And it's like, that's a Lamborghini. That's a Bugatti, whatever the most expensive, most class, like well-known sports car is. It's like, that's a Bugatti with a scratch. And you just took it to the junkyard. That's what you're doing with your life. That's what shame does. This is such a waste. And as we were talking about, like the songs that we have dying before we have the opportunity to sing them, I'm like, how do I do that? Right? Like, for how many years and in how many different ways in my life have I allowed myself to not show up, to not get out on the dance floor and groove because of shame? And it's been a lot. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. And I do think that love is the antidote. Like connection and relationship is the antidote. Being with you, like I leave encouraged. I leave better equipped. And there's to engage with my life. And there's this piece of like this guy Chase Hughes talks about it sometimes. Like I think he was on, was it Steve Harvey? No, Dr. Phil, Steve Harvey. I don't remember. But there's this piece of like you have the illness of seeking affection and acceptance from strangers. It's like, whoa, like, that's a real, like, this piece of perfectionism and shame that stops us from showing up. It has everything to do with that. But that only happens really when we don't have our secure base, right? When we don't have our people. Right. Because when you have that, it's like, I got my people and they've got me with all my weirdness. I don't need to find that elsewhere. And so my mind isn't going to orient to a fixation of thoughts oriented to others and the self. Oaths, right? Others and the self. Because I'm not worried about that from this stranger across the hallway. Like, you're living your life. They don't actually care.
Yeah, I want to say 2 things, I think when you're dying of thirst, Don't drink from muddy ponds, right? You don't drink from the dirtiest water. You know what I mean? I think that's what a lot of people end up doing. I have a lack of drive, or a
Yeah.
lack of family, or a lack of safety with any community, any one that can really see them, accept them, and give them the message that you don't have to be different than you are.
Yeah.
And there's all of us are in this session, and making mistakes is how we learn, and you know what I mean? Like giving us that message. But I also want to say, like, when you're talking about a scratch on a Bugatti, we had a common friend, Michael, who killed himself. And this is a man who's a fucking Bugatti, right? This is a man who
Seriously.
was like,
I wish to be half as imperfect as this man.
mega athlete, beautiful, rich, smart, powerful, had 3 beautiful kids, had a beautiful wife, had everything you could do, had cars and bullet bikes and anything, everything. Why did he go? Why did he decide to do that? When no, I don't, it boggles our mind. And yet in his mind, in some way, he wasn't good enough. He wasn't doing enough reps. He wasn't, his addictions were something that would taint his reputation. I don't know. What was it? What was it, Mike?
To speculate, not to consider. I don't know. Yeah, it's when the wolves came and his back was to the wall and things happened with business, relationship, with whatever else, that he was left alone. He was facing those things alone. And in looking at all of that daunting predatory threat to his being, when he took inventory of his own capacity to confront that and prevail, the answer was, I can't. That is more than I can bear. And in fact, the thing that I can do that would be best for my children, for whatever, is to take myself out of the game. This is the cost. This is the cost of not being an effective community. We, over the last however many 100 years, have found tremendous advantage in the use of technology and establishment of economic systems that have allowed us to have tremendous autonomy as individuals. That has come at the cost of community. Community has been corroded essentially into non-existence. And it is becoming less and less economically viable for us to be without community. Depression is the leading cause of disability worldwide. And and economics aside, we're losing our sons and our daughters. And we're just losing each other, right? Like, to live life, even if you have all the food you need, even if you have shelter, but to be alone in it, like, I don't care if you're chatting with people online. That's not connection. Like, we need each other. So I wonder how we can find each other again. No.
Isn't it interesting that someone as strong as Mike, someone as strong as me, someone as strong as you won't reach out to us or
100%.
them. We won't.
100%.
Something in our warrior nature will say, I must deal with this on my own. I am strong. I can't lean on anyone. You know what I mean? Like, to feel our weakness is one of our greatest weaknesses. To be able to admit to ourselves that we don't have all of our shit put together and that we're still confused and trying and hurting people and failing and, all the things human. And yet the strongest of us will commit that act and will commit to it without asking or opening or softening, right?
Yeah, how many sleepless nights did Mike fight alone without reaching out. And for me, it's like I don't really feel like it's a warrior element. Like I definitely am individualistic. And I think that the reason that I have historically failed to effectively reach out when I'm struggling, it has, I believe, I feel more of an origin to my attachment wounds of like, I can't afford to rely on other people. They won't be there for me. If I don't figure it out myself, it won't be figured out. But that's a lie. It's believing a scar in a way that disallows that scar from healing, as it could, because I do have people in my life. I can reach out and call people who would be in my corner and stand by me. And that's a practice that I'm trying to get more into. But it feels far less than like, oh, I can do this on my own than like I don't even remember that I'm not on my own. And to me that's a curious thing. Because I don't have, maybe it's ADD, maybe it's whatever. It's like I don't have my people around me immediately. I just forget that I have them because I'm so locked into again this selfish bundle of self-referential thought, which becomes a cage where I'm not looking outside to see that the key is a text away, a phone call away. That if I called you, you'd be there. Doesn't matter what time of day it is. As depending on the level of urgency. Yeah, great questions. Great questions. And Mike's loss is a lesson to be digested.
I also know you'll tell me the truth.
Mm, mm.
Yeah. And I don't want to hear it.
Oh.
Woo! And I also know you'll tell me it's me who's doing all this to myself. And they try to change my life. Mm.
What I know?
I know you'll love enough. Try to get me to see, but see beyond what I've tried to provide into the beliefs, into a concrete, idea and no sense of it. Well, third, what? But then myself, there is a danger to like showing up to a
Yeah.
friend.
Yeah.
And there's a part of us that knows what will happen if we do.
Yeah. Well, it makes me wonder because we have these simulations. By the way, we can go anytime. I want to be sensitive to the time. We can call it. You lift a finger, we're done.
On the phone.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. I just want to, be respectful. I so appreciate you coming and doing this. Well, it makes me wonder, Adam, like, we have these simulations of each other where it's like, if I called Jason or if I called Adam, like, this is how I imagine it going down. And for that reason, I'm out. Like, for that reason, no, thank you. That sounds uncomfortable. I want to be in my own narrative right now and feel upset about it and angry and externalize and victim stance and blame shift, all of that. And I wonder, like, how? Like, I think that there definitely have been times and are going to be times where I do just that. And also I wonder how much of the time, like, if you're hurting, the actuality would be that I'd just be in the hurt with you and just love you. And my hope would be that I would be able to read into and not lean too heavily into the like, well, let's look at these illogical, like these logical fallacies, and let's look at where you're not taking responsibility for your role and whatever. And I think that I could do a better job of that as a friend, of like learning when to just be there. Because there's a reason often that people will have that intuition of like, if I call Jason, he's just going to let me have it and see whatever, disassemble that, when what I really need is for him to just be there and just to hear me, right? Like, I think that's a practice, and I think that there are like relational tools that can be integrated into, especially romantic partnerships, where it's like, right now, do you need to be heard? Do you need to be helped, or do you need to be held? Yeah, right. Do you need to be helped in finding solutions, or this whatever? You need to be heard and just vent, or do you need to be held?
Yeah.
Right, like it's one of my favorite things Jim heard from.
I remember the story. There was one person I trusted with my suicide attempts. It was my sister. My sister was a weird person. She doesn't believe in funerals. She's like, I don't care if anybody comes to my funeral. And I just knew that I could trust her, that I could say, I'm planning to commit suicide and I need someone to take my children. I remember sitting in the car with her and testing that relationship, to say, are you going to try to fix this? You need to try to talk me out of this? Because this is what I've come to. Here's why. I need you to not try to save me right now. I need you to be there for me, in a certain way. And she said yes. The next day I took my kids to the ocean. And I drove to California and had this whole trip. Because that's her advice. She said, do something with your kids before you go. Wow.
When you share that, Adam, I watch as all the bullshit, uh, unimportant concerns or things that my attention is drawn to right now in this conversation. I watch those things melt away. Like, and I observe myself just falling into absolute presence with me. This is a powerful example of what happens when you choose to show up authentic and invulnerable, to be real, right? Like you just let me see you about as real as it gets. And it's curious for me to watch my own responses. I'm like, I don't care whatever else is going on right now. Like I'm with my brother. Like there is no fear of social judgment from some stranger that might see whatever. There's no concern even about falling. Love grants a mad sort of courage. And it's an underutilized superpower that we have as a species. And thank you for being someone who is in a practice of courage. Adam, one of the things that I think I've told you is that with dear friends often, I will find myself gifting a name. Like as I observe them, as I'm in connection with them, who they are to me, who I observe them to be in their essence, I will generate a name. They'll just kind of come to me, right? In this flow. And it's been interesting to see with you because you have been arguably my closest friend the last few years now, last several years. And a name hasn't just naturally come. Like there have been many names that have come to, like Ronan, like these pieces, but it didn't feel like it hit on the core essence of it. And it wasn't until, and by the way, we can edit whatever we want, like we maintain whatever. So, just want to note that. It wasn't until, I think, was it a Friday? Whenever that day was when we had the gathering to, I don't even know if the word celebrate is the right word for it, to commemorate, to recognize you getting off the roll. In a certain sense, getting your life back after a very long and painful walk. It wasn't until then that a name came, which curiously enough is not too far a deviation from your actual name. Adamantos. Adamantos, as in adamant, as in adamantine. which means unbroken, unconquered, still standing. When life circumstance conspired against you and you were condemned and treated with callous regard by a system that is blind to the actuality of who you are. And you what? You stepped forward voluntarily. You opened yourself to receive that. You bore that cross. And the name unbroken, adamantos, it doesn't mean that there is not breaking. It doesn't mean that there are not lines of stress, fracturings, that there isn't a cost, that there isn't a sacrifice. That's not what that means. 10 spheres go to war. In battle, all but one break. Right? That sphere is revealed. Its strength was not forged in war, it was revealed by the conflict. And so when I think of the name adamantos, it means that this stepping into as a lone warrior, as a Ronin. Because as much as people may have wanted to or been able to step forward with you in whatever way, this is a battle which you have fundamentally waged alone, like a lone warrior on the battlefield, without a comrade to your left or right, fighting on. And it is a battle for survival. You inspire me in waging my own private war in this world. In combating the darkness and the terror, the loneliness. Your example and the lessons which you have paid tuition for in full, you have shared with me some. And while I can't know them in their fullest extent, those lessons are indelibly left in my being. So thank you for the gift of who you are and the way that you encourage me. And not in a way of like, oh, I feel a little bit better about my day today, but in the walk, in the battle of life, I feel like I have more valor to call on because of you, because of your example, because of your legacy in my life. Now, you don't have to die for your legacy to be had. It is here now, and it is active. It's such a gift. There's more that we can talk about later with that name, but um, yeah, I'll leave that there.
It's been interesting having a friendship like this. So I felt the metaphoric power of it. Even when you're not around. Like these types of understandings of connection and relationship, confirmation, have like a psychic value that we carry everywhere we go. A wind at our back, a hawk in the sky, a spirit that whispers to us, and the voice of Jason, you know. And I think that they are important to understand and to grow and to nurture, through each other and say, Jason, even when I'm not with you, I'm with you.
Mm.
Even when you are alone, you're not alone. No matter how far apart we are, like, you can still talk to me. It doesn't even matter if I hear, like, there's a constancy in what we've come to know in each other, as a constancy in our devotion to each other's growth and evolution. So
Mm.
thank you for being such a symbol of valor. Thank you for being someone I can come to and you could hold the hardest, most painful things for you to hear
Mm. Mm.
as a friend, and endure the fire that it take to even taste of my pain, to feel the heartache with me. Watch me reach from the other side of the cage.
No, and in some of these frames of masculinity and brotherhood life, because men need to learn how to come together again in brotherhood. It's the only way we make it through, right? All these self-help books and seminars and whatever else will not substitute men being in connection in the way that we can, right? In brotherhood, in facing the challenges of life together, right? Uh, it's a necessity. It's not a nicety. It's something we can't afford not to find again because the world needs it. And so, like, some of these frames and different, how do I put it, models, maybe. I think I've shared with you. One is like every man a warrior, right? Like this piece of voluntarily confronting that which is a predatory threat, that which might terrify, that which has the aim of destruction, whether consciously or in effect, to confront that, to fight, to face, to take your fear and swallow it whole and let that be the fuel that becomes the fire that feeds the fire of your warrior spirit. Every man a warrior, every warrior a king. That through this practice of battle, you can establish yourself as a ruler, as someone who can be in a position of power to have impact and to, yeah, to have some power to play with. But the pinnacle of this is every king a servant. That if then in that position of being able to do something, you don't in that place contribute, find a role, connect, that it is all for naught. And but there's this last piece which I'll share, which is something that's come through recently, which is loyalty before glory. Loyalty. Loyalty before glory, before triumph. And well, what does this mean? It's not just a list of priorities of like, oh, what's more important than winning the day is being loyal to a brother in battle. It is that. But it also means that loyalty is the thing that precedes glory. Loyalty before glory. That is what allows you to prevail. Empires are founded on that, and they die when that is lost. And sometimes in quite an ignoble and and it's a silent death. It's a death with the breath, not with the shout into the void. And that's where we're heading. We don't learn to come together. Thanks for generosity and listening to my thought. Thanks.
You.
Well, my friend, anything else that feels to be better? Feel like a good point?
Yeah, that's
Okay.
That's beautiful. Wow.
Let's do it.
Well, finish with the bang.
Right.
Every
Okay.
time you pump me, I'm like,
Such a gift. Such a gift having you here, my friend. Again, can't think of hardly anyone else that I'd prefer to be doing this first. Oh, there's a hummingbird. Do you see this thing?
oh,
I might want to get some hummingbird feeders up here. Maybe just one. A little inconspicuous one. How cool would it be
so
to be up here and have just like hummingbirds chilling?
right?
But I want to hide it from the road. I don't like this being a cool place that just anyone's like, well, I want to go up there.
I was like, where that tree is? I'm like, oh, it's right there.
Because then guess what happens? Some stupid human falls off it and dies, and then the city's like, well, looks like we gotta take it down, so keep it secret.
All right.
Okay,
Let's
man.
start heading because I do want to
Yep, it's good.
dance.
Thanks again.
Oh
my
my
friend.
God, that was good.
Yes. Rich in ways that I could not have anticipated, and yet which do not surprise me.
Yeah, I wish we had more time.
Yep,
Nice,
which we
but
would
next
have.
time, I feel like that'll be how every podcast is. We'll get going, we'll be like,
And then we'll drop in.
yep,
Yeah.
it's awesome.
Listen times. Well, watch you out. Okay. Okay, girl.
Okay, girl.
Started out as a feeling, which then grew.
Doing a conversation out loud is kind of an interesting thing because it's almost like you can have sort of an agenda,
Mm-hmm.
but it's going to kind of ping pong, you know? And
Yeah.
like, it's going to go different places than you ever expected a little
Right.
bit. And it's almost like not following a mind kind of thing, but following an energy.